Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating perspective on an ancient text, the Bible. Instead of looking at it as just a strict rule book, we're actually going to treat it like a survival guide. We are uncovering hidden answers and mapped out practical solutions for your modern everyday problems. Basically, we're treating this often overlooked book like a literal treasure chest of promises. Let's dive right in with a story. Picture this. A young woman gets a book as a graduation gift. She politely thanks the giver, tosses the book into a junk drawer, and completely forgets about it. Well, months pass by, life gets really hard, and money gets incredibly tight. She's struggling just to keep the lights on. One day, completely desperate, she's digging through that drawer, opens the book, and an uncashed check flutters out. It had been hiding right there inside the book the entire time she was struggling. So it raises a pretty provocative question, right? How many of us are doing the exact same thing with this text? We put it on a shelf, maybe it has a nice leather cover, but we never actually open it. And all the while we're battling anxiety, fear, uncertainty, and crushing debt, completely unaware that we are literally sitting on a treasure chest filled with mapped out promises for those exact situations. So today, we're going to map all this out into practical steps for your daily struggles. We'll be covering 4 main areas. 1. Mental and emotional battles. 2. Physical and material lacks. 3. Spiritual direction. And 4. When you're overwhelmed.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Mental and Emotional Battles. We're specifically talking about anxiety, fear, and loneliness here.
You know what's genuinely fascinating about this verse in Philippians is the acknowledgement that feeling anxious doesn't mean your faith is weak. Honestly, it just means you're human. If you aren't a little anxious these days, you probably aren't paying attention. But the catch is, you aren't supposed to figure it out alone. The instruction here is to actively bring those worries forward.
And it's a pretty wild exchange when you think about it. You hand over your everyday human worry, and in return, a peace is released that completely defies human logic. It acts like a literal bouncer, standing at the door of your heart, making sure that uninvited fear can't just walk right in and set up camp.
Now, fear is incredibly loud, isn't it? But this promise in Isaiah is way louder. It doesn't just casually pat you on the back, tell you to stop being afraid, and then leave you to manage your panic all by yourself, which, let's face it, never actually works.
Instead, you're given specific tools. You don't have to just white-knuckle your way through a terrifying situation. The promise guarantees 3 exact things: strength, help, and an actual hand holding you up. It's an active, highly practical support system for your daily life.
And hey, what about loneliness? Focus on the word never in Deuteronomy 31:6. That one word is doing a ton of heavy lifting here. It doesn't say rarely or most of the time. The promise is absolute. The presence hasn't stepped out of the room and hasn't grown tired of your situation, not even at 3 a.m. when you're wide awake. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, Physical and Material Lacks. This is where the rubber meets the road with money and health.
When you're staring at a massive gap in your bank account, Philippians 4:19 shifts your entire perspective. This supply chain, it isn't based on your salary, the current job market, or whatever the global economy is doing. It comes from glory, and glory doesn't run out. It's a rock-solid promise to meet all your needs, not just the convenient ones.
Now, there is a detail in Exodus 15:26 that is absolutely crucial. I am the Lord who heals you isn't framed as a suggestion or a maybe if you're lucky. It's introduced as an actual identity, Jehovah Rapha. Long before a bad medical diagnosis ever even existed, healing was already hardwired into the very identity of God.
And for those days when you aren't necessarily sick, but you're just completely physically and mentally drained, totally running on empty, Isaiah 40 offers this counterintuitive promise. Feeling utterly exhausted is actually the perfect setup for this promise to activate. It refuels you in ways that completely defy basic biology. That brings us to Section 3, Spiritual Direction. Basically, finding your way when you feel entirely lost.
This brings us to a huge promise in Proverbs 3. It presents a really compelling idea. Sometimes, trusting your own gut is literally the most dangerous thing you can do when you're confused. Leaning on your own understanding is super risky because, let's be honest, our feelings lie and our emotions constantly change. You could be totally confident one minute and spiraling the next. But when you hand over the wheel and trust, the direction becomes absolute. The text says paths are made straight, meaning even the crazy, confusing detours in your life start making logical sense. But what if you feel lost because of your own mistakes? If you're sitting there feeling totally disqualified by your mess, 1 John 1:9 outlines an immediate, systematic rescue plan. You haven't gone too far, and you definitely haven't done too much. It's a super straightforward, unhesitating 3-step process. Step 1 is on you. Confess. Steps 2 and 3 are the promise, immediate forgiveness and purification. You don't have to jump through hoops or grudgingly earn your status back, because restoring you is framed as being fundamental to God's character. And as for the uncertainty of your future, the plans mentioned in Jeremiah 29 aren't damage control. They aren't some kind of backup plan B just because you messed up. They are intentional, they are purposeful, and they're designed for your good. The rest of your story is already plotted out. And finally, Section 4, when you're overwhelmed by life's pileups. This final promise from Psalm 46 reveals the concept of an ever-present help. It doesn't mean a distant help or an occasional help. It means right now. In the middle of the pileup, you do not need to have it all together. You can come tired, barely holding on, and the help is promised to meet you exactly in that mess. I highly recommend you grab a quick screenshot of this summary right here. We've mapped out specific struggles to their hidden promises. Consider this your ultimate cheat sheet for daily, practical application. Whenever a specific issue flares up, you have the exact reference point ready to go. So, tying it all back to our opening story, the check was hidden in the drawer the entire time the woman was struggling. Because these promises never expire and have absolutely no limit, the ultimate takeaway is that you have to actively open the book and claim them, not just once, but daily. Make it a daily reflection. So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought from our explainer today. Look at your current situation. Which of these hidden promises will you choose to cash in today? The material is right there, the promises are clearly stated. Now it's up to you to open the book and watch them work. Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.